Every bite of food you eat, every infection your body fights off, and every drop of fluid returned to your bloodstream depends on systems working silently together behind the scenes. Have you ever wondered how your body actually manages all of that at once? I am Miss Kathy, and today we are going to review the lymphatic, immune, and digestive systems through our Tutorial 5 solution walkthrough. You will reinforce key concepts that connect fluid balance, immunity, and nutrient absorption, knowledge essential for any health science professional. Let us work through this together. Welcome to this session on the digestive and lymphatic systems. We have 8 learning outcomes to work through together, and they cover 2 major body systems that are more connected than you might expect. We will explore how the lymphatic system supports cardiovascular function, trace fluid movement, break down both arms of immunity, and dig into how your body processes food from the moment it enters your mouth to full digestion. These 2 questions are testing your understanding of the lymphatic system's core structure and function. Think about how lymph is formed, how it moves through the body, and what the lymphatic vessels and nodes actually do. Review the relationship between interstitial fluid and lymph, and consider the roles of key organs involved. Work through these independently and carefully. This question is testing your understanding of how 2 major transport systems in the body complement each other. Think about what the cardiovascular system cannot fully recover on its own, and how the lymphatic system fills that gap. Consider fluid balance, fat transport from the digestive tract, and immune surveillance. Map out the connections before writing your answer. Accuracy and completeness both matter here. The lymphatic system does not work in isolation. It is deeply connected to the cardiovascular system in 3 important ways. First, it returns excess interstitial fluid, now called lymph, from the tissues back into the bloodstream, preventing dangerous fluid buildup. Second, specialized lymph capillaries, called lacteals, absorb dietary fats from the small intestine and deliver them into circulation. Third, the lymphatic system serves as a frontline immune defense, intercepting bacteria before they can spread through the blood. So let us trace the full journey. Interstitial fluid, which has leaked out of blood capillaries into tissue spaces, first enters blind-ended lymphatic capillaries through their overlapping endothelial cells. From there, lymph is pushed forward by skeletal muscle contractions and one-way valves through larger lymphatic vessels. Along the way, lymph passes through lymph nodes, where it gets filtered. It then drains into either the thoracic duct or the right lymphatic duct. The thoracic duct empties into the left subclavian vein, while the right lymphatic duct drains into the right subclavian vein, returning fluid back to circulation. So, tracing the route of fluid transport through the lymphatic system, let us walk through each step carefully. First, interstitial fluid that has leaked out of blood capillaries accumulates in the tissues. This fluid enters the lymphatic system through tiny lymph capillaries embedded in those tissues. Think of these capillaries as drainage channels, collecting excess water from a flooded street. From there, lymph moves into progressively larger lymphatic vessels, gradually traveling toward the cardiovascular system. A common mistake students make here is forgetting that lymph only flows in one direction, toward the heart, assisted by skeletal muscle contractions and one-way valves. Next, this lymph is collected by 2 major ducts, the right lymphatic duct, draining the upper right side of the body, and the left thoracic duct, which drains everything else. Both empty their contents into the subclavian veins on their respective sides, returning fluid back into the bloodstream. Critically, throughout this entire journey, lymph passes through lymph nodes. These nodes are not just checkpoints. They actively filter out pathogens and trigger immune responses when threats are detected. So the route is essentially a one-way cleaning and returning system, moving fluid from tissues back into circulation while defending the body along the way. Now for question 3 on the immune system. This question is testing your understanding of how the body defends itself against pathogens, foreign substances, or abnormal cells. Think carefully about the specific cells, organs, and mechanisms involved in immune responses. Work through this independently, recall the key terminology, and make sure your answer is precise and well-structured. You can do this. This question asks you to compare both major arms of adaptive immunity, humoral and cell-mediated. For humoral immunity, think about B cells, antibody production, plasma cells, and memory cells, including how a second exposure triggers a faster, stronger response. For cell-mediated immunity, focus on antigen-presenting cells, T cell activation, the 4 T cell classes, and the signaling role of cytokines. Work through both arms systematically. Now let us walk through the humoral, or antibody-mediated arm of adaptive immunity, with B cells as the primary players. When an antigen binds to a B cell receptor, it triggers the primary immune response. The B cell then proliferates rapidly, producing a clone of genetically identical cells. That clone differentiates into 2 critical cell types: plasma cells, which immediately produce antibodies for active defense, and memory B cells, which persist long-term. Think of memory B cells like a security system that has already been programmed to recognize a specific intruder. If that same antigen appears again, the secondary response is dramatically faster and stronger than the first encounter. This is precisely the biological principle behind vaccination. Understanding this sequence is fundamental to immunology and clinical applications in healthcare science. Now let us walk through the cell-mediated arm of the adaptive immune response, which is driven entirely by T cells. The process begins when macrophages present a foreign antigen on their surface. This activates or sensitizes T cells through clonal selection, meaning the specific T cell that recognizes that antigen multiplies rapidly. From there, different T cell types take on different roles. Cytotoxic T cells are your direct killers. They physically lyse, meaning rupture and destroy, cells that are already infected. Helper T cells act like coordinators, releasing cytokines that boost macrophage activity and stimulate both B cells and other cytotoxic T cells. Think of helper T cells as the immune system's messaging network, amplifying the response across multiple fronts. Regulatory T cells are equally important, but often overlooked. They shut the response down once the threat is eliminated, preventing the immune system from attacking healthy tissue. This is critical for maintaining homeostasis. Finally, memory T cells persist long after the infection clears. When the same antigen appears again, they mount a faster and stronger secondary immune response, which is actually the biological principle behind how vaccination works. Together, these T cell subtypes form a highly coordinated defense system, targeting infected cells directly at the cellular level. This table gives you a clean side-by-side comparison of the 2 arms of adaptive immunity. Humoral immunity is B cell driven. Antigens bind directly to B cell receptors, triggering plasma cell production and antibody release to neutralize pathogens in the bloodstream. Cell-mediated immunity is T cell driven. Antigens must be presented by macrophages, activating cytotoxic, helper, regulatory, and memory T cells to destroy infected cells directly. Both arms generate memory cells for faster future responses, but only cell-mediated immunity uses regulatory T cells to actively shut the response down once the threat is cleared. Here are a few things to keep in mind as you work through this digestive system question. These types of problems typically test your understanding of digestive processes, organ functions, enzyme activity, or nutrient absorption pathways. Think carefully about the sequence of digestion, which organs are involved, and what each structure contributes. Work through it methodically and trust what you have studied. Here we have a scenario-based question asking you to apply the 6 essential activities of the digestive system to a real meal, a plate of fried rice. This tests your understanding of the full digestive sequence and whether you can connect each activity to actual food components like starch, fats, and proteins. Work through each activity in order and tie every step back to the fried rice scenario specifically. Question 4 walks us through the first 2 activities of digestion, using fried rice as our example, and these 2 activities set everything else in motion. Ingestion is simply the act of placing food into the mouth. Nothing has been broken down yet, chemically or mechanically. It is purely the entry point. Think of it as opening the factory gates. The raw material has arrived, but processing has not started. Propulsion is where movement begins. Food is pushed through each digestive organ by peristalsis, wave-like muscular contractions along the walls of the digestive tract. These rhythmic squeezes work like someone squeezing toothpaste along a tube, pushing contents forward rather than relying on gravity alone. Your fried rice travels from the esophagus into the stomach, then through the small intestine, and finally into the large intestine, all driven by this coordinated muscular action. A common point of confusion here is thinking propulsion only means swallowing. Swallowing initiates it, but peristalsis continues the entire length of the digestive tract. Make sure you can distinguish between what ingestion covers and where propulsion takes over, because these are two distinct activities with very different mechanisms involved. Mechanical digestion is all about physically breaking food down into smaller pieces without changing its chemical structure. Think of it like tearing a piece of paper into smaller bits. The paper is still paper, just smaller. Starting in the mouth, chewing, or mastication, uses the teeth to break food into fragments, increasing the surface area available for enzyme action. The tongue then mixes everything with saliva to form a bolus, a soft, compact ball, ready to swallow. In the stomach, powerful muscular walls churn the food together with gastric juice, producing a semi-liquid mixture called chyme. Finally, in the small intestine, segmentation occurs. Rhythmic contractions mix chyme thoroughly with digestive juices and press it against the intestinal wall, maximizing absorption. Each stage prepares food progressively for the chemical digestion that follows. Chemical digestion is all about breaking large, complex molecules down into small, absorbable units, and enzymes are the tools that make this happen. Starting with starch, think of the rice in your meal. Salivary amylase in your mouth begins breaking down those polysaccharide chains into simple glucose units, and pancreatic amylase continues this in the small intestine. For fats, like vegetable oil, digestion happens in the small intestine. Bile from the liver and gallbladder emulsifies the fat first, essentially breaking large fat droplets into tiny ones, dramatically increasing the surface area available for lipase to act on. Lipase then cleaves those fats into fatty acids and glycerol. For proteins, digestion begins in the stomach, where pepsin starts cleaving those long protein chains. The small intestine continues this using trypsin and chymotrypsin, breaking proteins down completely into individual amino acid units. Notice the pattern here. Each macronutrient has a specific enzyme, a specific location, and produces a specific absorbable product. Understanding not just what happens, but where and why is what will help you answer these questions accurately. Now we are looking at the final two activities in this digestive sequence: absorption and defecation. Absorption is the transport of digested end products from the lumen of the small intestine into either blood or lymph. Glucose and amino acids enter blood capillaries directly, while fatty acids and glycerol take a different route. They enter the lymphatic system through specialized vessels called lacteals. The small intestine is perfectly designed for this, with villi dramatically increasing surface area to maximize nutrient uptake. Then comes defecation. Whatever the body cannot digest or absorb, like dietary fiber from those vegetables in your fried rice, travels through the large intestine and is eventually expelled as feces through the anus. It is the body's way of clearing out what has no nutritional value. Notice how these two activities are closely linked. Absorption captures everything useful, and defecation eliminates everything that remains. Together, they complete the entire digestive process. Make sure you can clearly distinguish what gets absorbed into blood versus lymph, because that distinction is a common exam question. Here we have a clean summary of all 6 digestive activities together, and this is a really useful reference to consolidate everything you have learned about digestion as one connected process. Notice how the fried rice example threads through every single activity, from the moment you place rice into your mouth all the way to defecation. This makes it easier to see digestion not as isolated steps, but as one continuous, coordinated journey. Pay close attention to the distinction between mechanical and chemical digestion. Students often confuse these two. Mechanical digestion is purely physical, meaning chewing and churning change the shape and size of food, but not the chemical structure. Chemical digestion, on the other hand, uses enzymes to actually break molecular bonds, converting starch into glucose, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Also note absorption. Glucose and amino acids enter the bloodstream directly, but fatty acids take a different route, through the lymphatic system via structures called lacteals. That connection between digestion and the lymphatic system is a key concept in this course. Use this table as your study anchor. If you can explain each activity in your own words and give a food example, you are well prepared for any question on digestive physiology. This is your quick reference summary of the essential terms you need to know across both the digestive and lymphatic systems. For lymph and lacteals, think about how fluid and fats are collected and transported. For the thoracic and right lymphatic ducts, remember which side of the body each one drains. Pay close attention to antigen, antibody, and cytokines. These three work together during immune responses. And for the digestive terms, peristalsis, chyme, and emulsification all describe physical and chemical processes that move and break down food. Use this as your study checklist. If any term feels unclear, go back and review that section before your assessment. We have covered a lot of ground in this unit, so let us bring everything together. The lymphatic system is not independent. It works hand in hand with your cardiovascular system, returning excess fluid back to the blood while also defending the body against infection. Lymph follows a very specific one-way route, passing through lymph nodes that act as biological checkpoints, filtering out pathogens before fluid re-enters circulation. Immunity operates through two coordinated arms. B cells handle the humoral response by producing antibodies and generating memory for future threats. T cells handle the cell-mediated response, directly attacking infected or abnormal cells. Both arms are essential. Neither works effectively without the other. On the digestive side, remember those 6 sequential activities: ingestion, propulsion, mechanical digestion, chemical digestion, absorption, and defecation. Every single step must occur for food to be fully processed and nutrients delivered to your tissues. And for chemical digestion, keep those 3 macronutrient pathways clear in your mind. Amylase breaks starch down into glucose. Pepsin and trypsin break proteins down into amino acids. Bile emulsifies fats first, then lipase breaks them down into fatty acids and glycerol. These are your core concepts. Understand the logic behind each one, not just the labels, and you will be well prepared. In this tutorial, we tied together 3 critical areas: how lymphatic and cardiovascular systems cooperate in fluid balance, how your immune system deploys both humoral and cell-mediated responses to fight infection, and how the 6 digestive activities work together from the moment food enters your mouth. These concepts are foundational in biomedical engineering, clinical diagnostics, and nutrition science. Now go back, draw that lymph pathway from memory, and test yourself with a different meal scenario. You have done the work. Trust the process. Once again, this is Miss Caffey. Be blessed and be a blessing to others.